What up, people, and welcome to the book club with one mother, three sisters, and a whole lot of hot takes. This is the Family Plot. I'm Angel, the host and the heart of the crew, joined by my baby sister Cam, our resident conspiracy theorist. Say hey, Cam.
Hey.
And our mama Lisa, the matriarch and occasional voice of reason. Say hey, mom.
Hey.
We are joined by Glenna, my sister in law, with the insightful takes. Say hey, girl.
Hey, girl.
All right, so here's how we get down. Each month, we discuss a book of our choosing, and every week, I'll share a brief summary of the chapters we've read, and then we each pick a discussion question to answer. We'll also share our first impressions, predictions, and whatever else comes up along the way. So if any of that interests you, pull up a chair, pour some tea, and get cozy as we get into this month's book right here on the Family Plot, where every chapter digs deep. Ladies, we are finishing up Bones at the Crossroads. We, it is our finale episode on this particular book, the second of a three-part series by Ladarian Williams. Let me get these slides because I see y'all over there itching to get you. Y'all are just brimming with excitement. It's palpable. Hang on. Hold on to your tits, Cam. I see you. All right. Let's, can everyone see the screen? Okay, great. All right. Week 4, ladies. Let's get into it. So, Lorraine reveals herself to Malik after murdering students and stealing their magic, but she escapes before she can be captured. Malik is immediately blamed. Madame Empress Montclair refuses to believe Malik and has him imprisoned and tortured for answers, while Chancellor Tarrant struggles between duty and care for him. At Malik's public hearing, the community turns against him. Tituba reveals he is part of the divine Elam, shocking everyone. Feeling betrayed and rejected, Malik escapes and briefly leans into being seen as the villain. Alexis helps Malik escape and brings him to the Deo tribe, where she explains she cut ties with Lorraine after realizing her true intentions. Malik and Alexis share an emotional moment and kiss, but their unresolved feelings complicate things, especially with Dominique still in the picture. Lorraine attacks again with Lugaroos. Malik calls on ancestral magic to fight back, showing his growing power. Malik decides the only way to stop his mother is to kill her. Chancellor Tarrant reveals he's Malik's father. Thank God, about time. Explaining years of absence and regret. Malik, hurt and angry, demands he prove it by helping him stop Lorraine. Malik reconnects with his roots, building an altar, honoring Mama Aya, and uncovering family truths, including John Henry's descendant. Malik and Dominique confront their feelings. Despite complications, they move toward each other. A major reveal, Lorraine has been possessed by Marinette the entire time, and her killings were to avoid sacrificing Malik. The only way to stop Marinette is a dangerous exorcism spell using the Scroll of Adon, one that will cost a life. Malik and Alexis officially close their relationship, choosing growth over repeating toxic cycles. In a final battle, the Bokors demand the scroll. Malik calls on ancestors while Lorraine begs to be freed to help him. Remembering Papa Legba's words about choice, Malik makes a sacrifice play, releasing his mother and ultimately sacrificing himself, with Taryn joining him as they're pulled into another dimension. In the epilogue, Malik confronts Lorraine in a reconstructed version of his childhood home. She reveals her true goal to create a ghost kingdom and rewrite their past into a perfect family. Child. Um, Pam, come with your first impressions, ma'am. Come on with it.
Because we could have found this out a book ago. You know what? I already don't like people, right? Taryn got cussed out by me. Didn't even know he got cussed out. Because why is you playing with this boy? We knew you was the pappy. You could have said that a long time ago. You playing on everybody time, everybody emotions, everybody hormones. Anybody got time for you, sir? Get it together. And then his mama ain't no better. Cause I feel like whole time deep down she knew. Cause it was a little too accepting when she came around the corner talking about some. Yeah, I already know. So you willingly had your grandson tortured. Cause you ain't like his mama? What type of dumb shit is that? Couldn't have been in the mortal world because baby, you're going to jail. And nobody got time to be playing these games. Now, Lorraine being on the mess that she was on makes a lot more sense now. Knowing she was possessed by Marinette. Very unfortunate. Also, I hate that for her. Still don't like her, but I don't hate that for her. Learning about Lorraine and Terrence's dynamic was a little more interesting to me because we find out that Malik is the product of an affair. Like that was really, because when he was like, well, my wife knew about you. I'm sorry, huh? What do you mean? Elaborate. So you stepping out on folks, having babies on folks. See, it's giving a little too close to home is what it's giving. I'm just saying. Mm. But I will say the little epilogue and how it was like all three of them together, and this ain't even a real situation that y'all still in here being toxic to each other says a whole lot. Says a whole lot about how they were and why they didn't work out. Like it makes sense to me why Taryn broke up with Lorraine to begin with. But I thought it was also really interesting. I don't know, I don't remember, I don't think we said it in here, but like the dynamic between Malik and Alexis versus Malik and Dom. Okay, so I'm not gonna go too deep into it, but I thought that was the revelation that he had regarding that situation based on what his mom said to him about her and Taryn's relationship. I was glad that we got some clarity in that because I swear on everything, if he left Dom, I was gonna crash out. Period. Because you keep getting in too much trouble over these women. I was gonna crash out. But yeah, I'm happy with how we stopped because I know we got another one coming. But if I just said it on the phone, if I'm not satisfied with number 3, Mr. Williams is getting a very long worded message on Instagram. And I yield.
Child, Glenna, first impressions.
I honestly don't disagree with anything Cam said. I will say that out of all of the people in this whole thing, Alexis, Malik in this part of it, and Dom have been the most mature, and Tay have been the most mature of the whole set, and I'm including the gods in this. Because they at least keep rolling with the stuff that they keeps getting thrown at them. I have to say, I was very pleased, even, with all the emotions going on with Alexis appearing back and saving him. That was the most, despite everything, that was the most responsible decision he could have made. and the best way he could have discussed it and handled it. They actually sat down and had a conversation. There was no yelling. It was just, yeah, I think it's this, and I think, my emotions are this, and this is where I'm at, and while this is this, this is where I'm at. And it was clear, it was concise, it was to the point, and they were both understanding. Hallelujah. And then the way he worded it with Dom when he was talking to her, it's like, I'm falling for you, but I need to take this slow because I want to make sure I do it right. Couldn't have been more mature if he tried. Very proud. His mom needs some work. Taryn needs to continue therapy. And a lot of it. Not gonna lie, the one that kind of made me roll my eyes in this whole set was Kamale. I get he has an agenda and he's going to do whatever the hell he can to get that agenda, but seriously? It's like anytime you think people are finally starting to make headway, he decides to drop himself into a situation. It's like, I know we're focusing on mom being possessed and being one of the big bads here, but can we just take his ass out so we don't have to deal with him anymore? Because his manipulation of the situation is just making everything worse. And with that, I yield.
10 out of 10, no notes. Mother, first impressions, please, ma'am.
Okay. I'm going to say this. I agree with Cam and Glenna on most things. Two things I have a problem with. The affair, the only way I can consider that true affair is that, and it could be an affair. They use the term affair, maybe loosely, but in my mind, because he was dating her before he met his wife, he broke up with her because she hit that bang magic. So the only way they could have had an affair is if he went back and got him some after he got with his wife, because they were together first. And if that is the case, then yes, shame on Taryn, because you had to sneak back and get some because that was your first love, even though you married and had and went and had a whole nother family. Yeah, something is wrong with you. But I had the feeling that when he say affair, meaning they had a relationship and all of that. But we know Malik got here somehow, and he was here before that other son of his. So I think when he said that, he was still romantically connected to her, even though he went and married someone else. That's my thought on that. But then the other thing I had an issue with, Cameron was talking about how this mama was possessed. Y'all gotta excuse my French right now, because Lord forgive me, I'm gonna repent a little more later. But fuck a possession, because your ass volunteered to sacrifice your child for some power. Now, who the hell does that? You gonna give up your kid because you want some more power? That's like me giving my baby over to the dope man. Hell no, I have no damn sympathy for her. That's where I am. Excuse me. I'm just feeling some kind of way about that. You gonna give up your baby, and then, after you got what you wanted, then you decide, oh no, I ain't gonna give up my baby. Who the hell you dealing with? You dealing with supernatural motherfucking powers. You don't offer yourself over to a God and say you can have this and think you're going to get out of that shit. I'm sorry. I was just feeling some kind of way. So this child had gone through hell and high water because your little selfish ass decided you want to play with the gods. Whew, okay. Yes, I am rare today because we're talking about a baby. That baby should not have gone to deal with none of it. And then I'm mad at Taryn's ass because when you had to go and do what you did with his mama, where the hell was you? Yes, you had a wife and you had another child, but let's talk about it. This boy was in this world by himself. He didn't ask to be here. Your love child is here because you fell in love with somebody and then you don't love her. You love her enough to make a baby, but you don't love her enough to take care of your seed. I'm sorry. And I get grief. I get grief. I understand he was saying he didn't want to go get him because raising him. Here's the problem I had, because to me, this is a bullshit excuse. But what do you mean I would have a problem raising you after my wife and son died and I'd feel guilty? Bullshit. He was here first. He was here first. And he got the raw deal. I'm a little upset at that. I'm sorry. Excuse me. Let me come down. Now, with that being said, kudos to D-Lo and the crew for standing in the gap. For still, in the midst of everything, Alexis, who betrayed him, still came back to save him. For Dom, for accepting the fact that, you know, he was saved and she recognizes that. And then to know that, yes, she had feelings, but she was willing to put all of that aside because they were still friends and she was still in supportive of him being who he was. And she did have feelings for him. So I'm glad that worked out in the end. And that the one thing I really, really applaud, and then I agree with Glenna on, is that, yes, they were the most mature out of everybody up in this whole segment, because these parents been lying left and right all around, every which way. But what I see your hand in a minute, Cam, give me a second. But what I really, really enjoyed, outside of how he presented he wanted to move forward in their relationship, is the fact he made this statement that parenting your parents, you know, sometimes you got to parent your parents. And I said, flashback, if that sounds like a conversation between me and my child, I don't know what is. So I chuckle when I think about some of the conversations I have with my eldest child, because I said, yeah, sip the tea, because here it is. Because I say to her, as an adult, I look into having some perspective from you. And does that mean that she's parenting me? Maybe, maybe not. But that means that I, as an adult, as a parent, have grown to understand that I also need to listen to my kids. I need to hear them and understand them. And I don't think nobody in the scheme of this particular book got there. Mama Aya seemed like she was listening, but she was also telling, because she knew she was ready to release this world and move on to the next, which was her ultimate goal, because she herself was tired, which is what, you know, John Henry was trying to do. And I get it. So she's like, I tried with my daughter. She wasn't trying to listen. So, hey, let me do what I got to do. And yeah, with the stuff with everybody else, I expected the battles. I expected the fights. I did not anticipate. In the back of my mind, I knew the Bakuas were coming back, but I thought they was gonna come back in book 3. So this whole little epilogue situation thing, and with Marionette and her red eyes outside the window trying to get in. This particular moment, I'm concerned as 2 things. Number one, whatever the sacrifice was that Taryn made to Baron Samedi. And number 2, what truly this epilogue meant in terms of Marionette and Malik. Because to me, this scene, that ending scene, to me seemed as if Malik was even though he had cast Marionette out of his mama, she was still ever present, trying to get, in so many terms, what's owed her. And what I'm questioning in my mind is whatever he performed at the end, I thought was supposed to cast out Marionette from his mother, but also terminate his mother, and he were to get their powers. That was the understanding I got. And if that is the case, that meant that everything Lorraine had already gathered from all the other powers she had gotten, plus Marionette's powers, would be up under the vein of Malik. So why is it she's sitting outside across the way in the crow-like form, with these eyes, and she, coming to the door? So that whole scene right there, I want to explain, and I know that probably ain't gonna come to the next book, but that was the one thing that had me perplexed. And I was getting ready to yield, but I know, Cam, you had a question. You had raised your hand.
I did, because I thought I read something that I now know, or at least think that I did read.
Oh, okay. So no other questions?
Mm, mm.
Okay. Well, yeah. So for me, with all that being said about everybody else, yeah, but I'm concerned about the dynamic between Marionette and Malik at this point, and I know that probably won't be revealed. And what's going on with the Bakors won't be revealed until the next book. So with all of that, I yield.
Okay, ladies. Whew. Couple things. Let me get the light stuff out the way first. I thought it was real cute that Tay wanted to officially ask Samity and Brigitte if he could call them mommy and daddy, even so much as writing a letter. I thought that was beautiful. I also thought, Titubu, I knew she was going to come in clutch at the hearing. I just didn't know that she was going to reveal that he was part of the Divine Elam, because it was supposed to be such a secret thing. But I'm glad she did, because it further proved his innocence from murdering them children. I was heartbroken that Taryn didn't believe him initially when he was saying he was innocent. It really just brought up for Malik so many messages of him not being fully accepted. And it didn't help that Lorraine just had that conversation with him prior to her disappearing. I feel like on some level she did it on purpose so that he could appear to be worthy of the blame, and that he could then receive that backlash from the people in the meeting. But at the same time, whether or not Lorraine would have did that, Malik had been receiving those messages all his life. So to have Taryn, who had spent all of this book actually taking time and building a bond, to then all of a sudden be forced with the opportunity to defend him, and him not do that in that moment, that broke my heart. We all knew Taryn was Pappy. We all knew. We did not know that Lolo was loco, in the sense that she was possessed. So I was very much shocked to find, but I had a feeling that when we were first introduced to Marinette, I had a feeling her presence had something to do with something in the past with Tituba. I just did not connect the dots that she would be involved with Lorraine as well. Also shocked to find that Tituba was the very first one to engage Marinette's power and take possession of that so that she could avenge her friend way back when and wreak some havoc on some slave owners. I feel like if this book were a movie, that would be a very much Angela Bassett waiting to exhale scene with the fire in the background. Like, I feel like that's what that would be, and I would be so here for that scene. Yeah, I was not at all surprised that Malik came to the conclusion that he was ready to unalive his mom. Um, I also was very shocked to see that Titua tried to take some of the blame for his mom becoming the way that she was. She was like, in essence, it's not just, it's this ain't on you. I technically taught her some of this stuff. I invoked Marinette and her power. And had that not happened, she probably wouldn't have got this bad. I understood her trying to take some of that blame, but in the moment, it wasn't gonna do nothing. That man was like dead set on unaliving. He's like, look at what she's done. Look at this. I knew Alexis was gonna hook up with the Deo tribe after the first book, and the reason I say that is because there was a big council meeting, and at the end of that meeting, Damon, the leader, specifically said to Malik that Alexis always got a place with them if she wants it. Now, this is before she got kicked out of school. So I knew that whenever she came back, she was going to be linked to that tribe in some way. It was also very apparent that that tribe's priority was community involvement, which, as we know, Alexis is very much in her activist bag. So it wasn't surprising to me that they was together. What did surprise me, though, is that Miss Faye is the leader's grandmama. So you just been out here, stacking books and going home and watching your stories, and your grandbaby is the leader of the whole tribe. Girl, I was through. I was just like, it was a nice reunion, but it's those unsuspecting characters that are just so close that, bring that warmth. And then I'm just like, girl, what you doing? Making neck bones and leading girl. It was hilarious. I also found it not surprising, but interesting that Lorraine, because of her experiences with love and heartbreak, her views, she tried to impart onto Malik as like some pseudo guidance, but Malik was, not just mature enough, but understanding enough to say, well, no, that ain't me. That ain't what's gonna happen to me. And me and Dom gonna do something different. Me and Alexis gonna do something different. And I'm not gonna be consumed by the heartbreak just because I experienced it. And I thought that was really wise, and refreshing to see that he wasn't allowing himself to be tainted by her experience. I also I put myself in Lorraine's shoes and was like, well, shoot, if I experienced something like that kind of heartbreak and was so traumatized by it, I would not want my child to experience that too. But I don't know how I would get that across to them without seeming like I'm trying to taint their experience. So, it was just a very well-written conversation. I'm just like, who child. I was also confused, Mom, as to the end events of this book, because Malik makes his proclamation to Dominique that he's falling for her and that he's willing to do this and be with her. But in the same scene, sacrifices his being so that he's not with her. And so I'm just like, okay, so how you about to build something with her and you over in a different dimension with your mama? Yeah, maybe you can clarify that for me later on. But yes, I also want to understand more about whatever it was that Taryn had to sacrifice with Baron Samedi. And just the overall manifestation of Malik's powers when he has his ancestral cloud. I don't think I understand that fully. I know there's the Kave magic. I know there's the scroll magic. I just don't think I'm reading this right. I think I would be better able to digest that if it was in movie form. So, all in all, I'm also very curious to know how John Henry's descendant will play out in the third book. Also, I still suspect that Tay will be the seer of the divine Elam. If not Tay, probably this other descendant of John Henry. but I don't think I mean, because we don't have any other clues or anything as to who that person will be. So I'm really excited to see how that will unfold. And yes, the children was the most mature out of all of them, God's included. And with that, I yield. That's it, ladies. Let's get on into these questions. Um, Pam has made it very clear that she would love to have the first question. So go ahead, Cam. And I'm assuming it's justice and belonging, correct? Okay.
It is.
Malik is quickly blamed, rejected, and nearly stripped of his magic by the very community he's trying to protect. What does this reveal about justice within the magical community and how belonging is granted or denied?
I don't know if we've all seen it, but Forbidden by Todd Recall. Worth the watch. All I was hearing in my head when we got to this part of the story was the song Wanted, because Todrick said it best. You point your finger long enough, you find someone to blame. And they've been doing a whole lot of pointing, but the person that they pointing at ain't present, so they going to the next best thing, which is her son, and that's not right. So justice in the magical community, I feel like it's just not a thing until you actually have in your possession the person you actually have the problem with. Because there's no amount of persecution that Malik was going to face that was going to fix the things that his mother did. And they weren't ever going to feel justified until they got his mother. So at this point, we just pointing fingers and blaming folks because we can't get our hands on the person we actually want. Because yes, we saw the magic going back into your arms. Yes, we saw all of these dead children around you, but think about something for a second. Up until 2 minutes before y'all found him, he was out in the courtyard dancing with Dom. So where in 120 something seconds did he have the time to murder 8 people? Magic or no magic? 2 minutes and 8 people. Hold on. So I feel like everybody was wrong. Taryn should have believed him. And Malik raised a very good point. You're doing all this protecting, but when I actually need you, you're not where I need you to be. It's like Klaus on the pitch. Never where I need you to be. You got a whole job and you don't ever do it. And I feel like in his own way, Taryn has been helicopter parenting, at least throughout this book. But then at that same token, if this is your child, because we already knew that. The revelation hasn't been made at this point, but we already knew that. If this is your child, why are you so quick to, again, blame him? You're not asking the right questions. You're not even attempting to come to his aid. And to me, there is no parent that I know of who would openly let their child be prosecuted with no questions. Not even Madame Empress Bonclair wouldn't dare let nothing happen to Chancellor Taryn, but let that be flipped. And Taryn is just like, well, you look guilty, so you guilty. Like that's not right. And Malik is telling you and proclaiming his innocence. There's not even an investigation going on. And he's telling you, I didn't do this. My mother did this. This is not me. And nobody, and I seriously mean nobody, believed him. That don't sound right to me. It sounded and looked a lot like Madame Empress Bonclair is just trying to dispose of the only living tie to this woman that she hates because that's what she been doing since book 1. But again, where is the actual justice? Because you getting rid of the thing that is a reminder of the person you have a problem with, but not the actual problem. So his belonging never really was granted, but it also wasn't completely denied, because if it was denied, he wouldn't have had that bond with Mama Aya. He wouldn't be at that school to begin with. He wouldn't have been able to join the Divine Elam and be sought after rather than seeking it out. So he has that area where he's been granted his belonging. But then in literally every other aspect, just because of who his mother is, it's all denied. It's like me in high school going to Metro for the first time, and I'm being walked around, and it's like, her grandma taught here, her sister and her auntie went here. If she not doing good, it's a problem. Like, no, you can't lay that on a child. That's not fair. Before I answer this, Angel, you had your hand up.
Yes. So a couple things. You make a very good point that he was just outside dancing with Dom. How he got the time to kill all these people. One thing that they were considering was that when he was a child, it only took a couple seconds and all them people died. And so in Taryn's mind, I'm assuming it's just going to be that much harder to convince people that you're not also responsible for this one. Now, of course, he and Malik knew the truth, that ain't had nothing to do with him, but that's not what the magical community was going to see. And I think that's why Madam Empress jumped so quickly to that accusation. It's like, he done did it again. He out here killing, blasting explosions, people dead. Also, to your point, I think when the math ain't mathing and people are just so gung-ho about upholding contradicting narratives. Listen, cognitive dissonance is a hell of a drug, and unfortunately people will hold true to those narratives because they don't want to address hard truths. And we are seeing that right now in real time with how our government is being run. We're seeing that right now in real time with just how men and women in social media and other social aspects are being pitted against each other, because there's not a lot of introspection being done to say, well, the values and ideas that I was taught to uphold ain't really matching up with what I'm seeing, what I say I'm aligning myself with. And instead of wrestling with that and coming to some conclusion that would force you to address the hard truth, it's just easy to blame the other party. So honestly, not surprising that that's happening in the magical community of this book. But yeah, disappointing. And also, to your point, when we're talking about belonging, I think the author has done a really great job at just letting us all know that even though we all got these different communities, we got these different, societal structures, you still, at the end of the day, got to find your own tribe. And Malik has done just that with D-Lo and Salon and Elijah, even with Dr. Davison and Cultural Necessities Group.
Mm-hmm.
And even in his connection with Dom, he's still not totally resistant to starting over in a romantic space. He's just doing so wisely. So yeah, in belonging, you gotta find your people.
And he did
Whatever.
that.
And he did that. That's all I got to say. And I yield on that.
Glenna commented and said Tuba said their diagnostic spells in the trial was too fast. I agreed with her. I don't think they were actually done, to be honest with you. There wasn't a real investigation. Just like when the fights broke out over Homecoming, nothing happened to the people who actually started it. They just placed blame on the other people because of their connection to Malik. That also wasn't fair. And I feel like it truly wasn't actually done because, again, it's been very clear throughout both of these books that Madame Empress Bonclair's entire objective is to get rid of Malik. So it would seem very plausible to me that the diagnostic spells and the trial would be really fast or basically not have taken place. Because to me, what happened in the book wasn't really a trial. It was, let me tell you what you did, and then I want to strip you of your magic. Like that's all that was. That wasn't really a trial. So it also stands to reason that there wasn't actually an investigation. Because if you can't actually show me what you're saying that I'm doing, then what are we doing here? And so I appreciate old girl, like Tatuba was on it, and I appreciated when she showed up, because I feel like she showed up at the exact moment she needed to carry as much weight as her statements did in that moment. And if not for her coming in when she did, Malik's fate would have took a complete 180, and he would have been powerless, magicless, and it would have been a mess. But I agree with Mom in that his friends standing in the gap made all the difference. Because Tatuba was going to do what she was going to do, and it was going to have the impact that it did. But his friends coming in and having his back, to me, is what made all the difference. Because in that moment when he felt like there was nobody on his side, they showed up to say, hey, bro, we here with you. We got you. Let's go. And so that's why I agree
And
with you.
also,
You gotta find your
the
people.
Jakutas by proxy, because D-Lo just joined that organization and he brought all his
That's
boys.
true. That's true. The Jakutas being there was great, but then having everybody else be against them was kind of like y'all not even gonna take the time to hear a brother out. You just gonna make these assumptions, and that's not cool. But I like the fact that the people who said they would stand with him proved that they would, regardless of what came against him. So I really, if there was belonging in no other area of the book, you could see his belonging with his people at that moment. And I really think that made all the difference. So I'm looking forward to seeing how those relationships strengthen in the last book. And with that, I yield.
Yes. Anything to add, ladies? No? Okay. Glenna, what will be your question of the night, ma'am? You're on mute, by the way.
I know. I just got an alert on my phone. I was trying to figure out what was going on. Love versus illusion.
Love versus illusion. Lorraine's ultimate goal is to create a perfect version of their family by rewriting reality. Is this love, delusion, or control? How does this compare to Malik's understanding of real love?
Is it love, delusion, or control? For Lorraine, it's all three. Because her concept of love is so skewed that for her it is. And she is so power hungry and self-absorbed that I honestly don't think she has the legitimate ability to truly love anyone or anything. And that to me is demonstrated specifically by the fact that when she was possessed by we don't even know what Marionette is. We don't know whether she's another witch, a demon, what, we don't know. We just know she's possessed her. So whatever entity she is, She sacrificed potentially her child's life. That's the payment. You don't do that to someone you love. So I don't think her capacity or ability to love is, at least in her mind, it's there, but in reality, it's quite skewed. I don't think she understands the true concept. And in that vein, it's delusion. It's pure delusion. And her want to create this happy little, almost nuclear family in the epilogue of, what is just blatant delusion. Because her own choices pushed Taryn away. And how do I word this? Her choices caused her to be imprisoned and therefore leaving her son to flail on his own. And every aspect of, I see if Lisa, I'll be right with you. In every aspect of what she's done, every time she softens her voice, every time she says something to Malik, it's pure manipulation. Because she wants whatever her ultimate goal is. And right now, her ultimate goal is that she wants to have the power from the possession, but also keep her child. She wants her cake and to eat it too, and it's just not going to work that way. And compared to Malik's understanding of real love, I think he's beginning to actually grasp the true concept. I mean, prior to the circumstances of the books, I don't think he would have had a good, solid understanding of love because he was pretty much on his own. And the only loving relationship he had was Tay. And while that is a good, solid relationship that they have, it is, I don't want to, yeah, it's very juvenile in its nature because they were kids. So it's not an adult understanding of that. And as he's possessing through his life, then is now meeting Mama Aya, who is a loving example for him, and then his slight misstep with Alexis. But it's showing more and more with his developing relationship with Dom. I think he's truly beginning to understand the realities of emotional attachment and emotional relationships. And I think that he has a more solid grip on reality than his mother ever thought of having. Lisa?
I just want to say for all the people watching, therapy works. Because I really believe it's because Malik was going to the group with the gentleman that he got a true understanding of what his emotions was in terms of love relationships with other people. Also, when you say delusion in terms of Lorraine, I agree with that because, she was saying in the book how mothers and daughters throughout their history have had a somewhat volatile relationship, and that, her relationship with Mama I wasn't all that good, and she was trying to convince Malik of this. Well, nowhere in there, and she wanted this nucleus family dynamic because she didn't have one. So she wanted to create something she didn't have, because nowhere in this book or the last did we ever discuss her father, if you think about it. So she didn't grow up with a dad. She grew up with Mama Aya. And of course, Uncle John Henry was somewhere in the back, but their relationship was, got severed because of his relationship with his sister, Mama Aya. So nowhere in there did she have that nuclear family that she in her mind wanted for her son. And she herself didn't have, because she and Taryn broke it off. And so, yeah, she may have wanted that, but that, just like Tay wanted Malik wanted this life for Tay that he didn't have. So they have a general concept of love and loving someone. But yeah, when you realize what you don't have, we always kind of want what we don't have. And in Malik's case, he wanted for his little brother what he never got. And mom and Lorraine, in her sense, wanted for her son what she didn't have. She knew she fell in love with this man. She wanted this family with him. But again, I agree with you when you say delusional, because when you truly love somebody, you're not going to give them up like that. You're not going to sacrifice them to create your ultimate goal. Because how can you be giving him this loving family if you got to give him away in order to get it? You truly didn't think that thing through. But I'm so glad throughout the course of all of this, in Malik trying to gain an understanding of himself, he was willing to go to therapy and then recognized how helpful it was, because it not just helped him figure out who he was, it helped him understand why he's feeling what he's feeling in terms of relationships. And that's how you build not just a love relationship, but your family dynamic as well. So with that, I yield.
Angel?
Yes, so it's giving very much WandaVision. I don't know if y'all saw WandaVision, but for anyone who has not seen it, it's Wanda from the Avengers, shortly after having lost Vision, the love of her life, possesses an entire town of people to construct the perfect reality where she, Vision, and her twin sons can live happily. Um, is it love, delusional control? I agree. It's all three. But I would add to that, it's grief, because in Lorraine's grief for not having this fatherly figure that mom mentioned and not having the love that she envisioned with her and Taryn, you can only take so much grief before you feel like at some point you got to take control of your life. And I think as misguided as she was, this was her way to do that. And the same for Wanda and WandaVision. As heartbroken as that character was to have lost their twin brother and the love of their life, the only way they could see their way through that grief was to take control of their life. It just so happened she was taking control of the other people's lives too. But that feeds the delusion that by having that control, I can achieve the love or the feeling that I was going for. I can fulfill that unmet need. It's not healthy, but I could see how some people would get there, because you get tired of grieving after a while. And you start to wonder, well, what else can I do? If I done cried and I done prayed and I done, built altars for the ancestors and I done did all my spells and I'm still sad all the time from this loss, what can I do within my power, physically and magically, to end that pain? I don't think that's right, but I get it. And with that, I yield.
Same.
All right. Mother, your question of the night, man.
Ooh, child. So
I think I know which one you go.
you gonna say I'm gonna pick generational trauma or pop? Because that's what you was gonna say, wasn't it? Go answer. Is that what you was gonna say? Because the only thing left is power of choice.
I'm just the host. I'm just here. I'm here for moral support.
Anyway. See, now you got me wanting to think.
Go on, make a choice, girl. Right? No judgment here.
Okay, well, just go and give me generational trauma.
Oh, if I had a nickel.
You know what? Stop trying to parent me. Anyway,
Generational trauma. We see parallels between Lorraine and Taryn and Malik and Alexis slash Dominique. How does the story explore breaking or repeating generational cycles of pain, love, and power?
how does the story explore breaking or repeating generational cycles? Okay. Well, very similar to what I said previously in terms of uh, trying to identify love. Um, and like you said, Angel, what you don't get, you seek to get or you look for. Um, the human desire, well, I would say any living thing desires to be loved. Um, but what has happened here in dealing with people, you have to deal with different types of, hmm, I would say, traits or characteristics. And when dealing with folks, the cycles repeat a lot of times in generations because of what you've been exposed to. So I may have come up in a very uh, loving environment, and my goal is to seek out that same type of environment if that is my desire. If I'm desiring to experience love and what I believe to be a loving relationship and what I've witnessed growing up as a loving relationship, I'm going to seek out individuals that will help provide that same type of atmosphere. However, unfortunately, a lot of times what we don't see growing up is the behind the scenes stuff that folks have to deal with in order to get that perfect image. Because a lot of times what you see outwardly or what you believe to be the perfect relationship is not always such. Because like D'Lo and Elijah and Savon was saying when they were teasing Malik about Dom. Oh, we see y'all look cute together and all of that, and woo woo woo. Yes. Same thing with Lorraine and Taryn. I'm pretty sure when they were together, they looked all cute and wonderful, but you don't know what goes on behind the scenes in a relationship that will cause it to either stay or break apart. And unfortunately, in this particular case, it was that broken persona of I want to experience this type of love that drew Lorraine into. Well, I'm not gonna say that's what drew her into going into Bane Magic, but once getting there and deciding um, she wanted not just that power, but she wanted to maintain that love that she started to get. She had with Taryn, because they both came from very similar places. They had very dominating parents who were deciding. I mean, and let's be real, Empress was still running Taryn even as a grown man. So so they are both coming from some very dominating mothers. And I can't just say parents because he didn't express that type of concern with his dad, but they had very dominating mothers. And they're out here trying to figure out their life in their own world, which is what connected them. The same thing with Alexis and Malik. They out here in this world by themselves, two little orphan kids, so that's their similarity. Just like Taryn and Lorraine had the similarity of dominating parents, but you got these two little kids orphaned out here in this world, and they come across each other because they both share something that the other kids don't have. So again, they've made a connection, and this is what you do when you when you build relationships. You make a connection with that person over something, and that's the thing that holds you together. But what they don't realize is there are all the other things that happen in the course of a relationship that can break you apart. A loss of trust, a lack of understanding, uh, and a lot of times most relationships, as do these, break apart because of lack of trust or lack of understanding for a purpose of what you're doing or why you're doing, or a flat out, in Taryn and Lorraine's case, total disagreement for the way in which you're moving. Uh, and that's, I mean, no, it's actually in both cases, because Malik didn't agree with, he agreed with Alexis wanting to revenge folks in the community. He didn't agree with how she was doing it. Same thing with Taryn. It's one thing to learn about it's another thing about how you going about this. You going about this and you doing stuff you ain't supposed to be doing. This is not what we about. And yeah, so ultimately, when you see your partner is going totally against what you feel is comfortable, and they're no longer listening or hearing you and going off in the deep end, that means you all don't have that connection you thought you had. And that breaks the relationship, that breaks the trust in the relationship, that pulls a rift in between. And it happened not just in his relationship, not just in Terry and Lorraine, not just in Malik and Alexis. I can't say for Malik and Dom, because he was very upfront about her being his friend, and because of his relationship with Alexis, kept saying it. He was denying his own feelings for her. Even though he knew he had them, he just did not want to move on them the way he did with Alexis, because he himself, and in a mature fashion, did not want to move forward and make her a rebound. So I commend him on that. But and that was totally against what his dad did. He went and got him a rebound, married it, had a baby. So this story just parallels with actual life, and that you see and you experience things, and what you see and experience growing up, you determine whether this is something you want or something you don't want. And you work to build those things as you grow and develop. The repeating of these cycles, yeah, it happens in a lot of lives because of what we're exposed to. And until we break the cycle, it will continue. Luckily for Malik, he was willing to break the cycle, and he broke it with Dom, because he was very upfront about not having that play out again. Not that he even understood the true dynamic of Lorraine and Taryn. He just understood he did not want that for him. That's a breaking of that cycle. And he did not want to bring upon her an unnecessary and an unfair commitment, because he felt like, why would I don't want to commit to you wholly when I'm still feeling this over here. That's breaking a cycle, because you are stopping. You ain't just going along with the flow, knowing that you ain't 100% in. That in itself is breaking up that cycle. So yeah, the story itself explores that. It explores the cycles of pain. Let's just say hurt people. Flat out, the way we can put it. Hurt people. You got people who are hurting. Malik has been hurting throughout this entire story. And throughout this entire story, he kept saying, the only thing I want is to provide a better life for Tay. And he ends up hurting Tay because he let his pain overwhelm him to the point that he, used his magic to try to harm somebody else, not realizing what you're doing is harming him. So yeah, the hurt people. In your attempt to do some damage, you hurting somebody else, and you don't realize that. So that is a generational cycle, because just like his mama, even though I don't think she initially tried to hurt Mama Aya, but she did by how she left the house, refused to listen. She hurt her son by what she did. She hurt Taryn by what she was doing. And all of that cycled down into her son. He was hurt because he was left abandoned and unheard. And so and I think again, I commend him in trying to break these cycles of not just love but pain, because it is a generational thing. Same thing with another example of that was Uncle John Henry, who flat out said, "Hey, I'm stubborn just like my daddy." That's the reason him and his sister are no longer together, had a rift for so many years. All of that, all of these things, at the end of the day, hurt people. And it's until you get ready to break that cycle. Yes, because my mother was hurt. She did some stuff to me that probably matriculated down to my kids in the way that I was thinking and acting and moving. And it ended up hurting them. And I have to go repent to them because I may have made some mistakes. But this is what I learned. This is what I understood. And this is why I moved the way I moved. And until I get better and break that cycle, that's what happens. And my prayer is, if when I do, or if I do, that it won't happen to the next generation, or it will correct itself after me breaking the cycle. In terms of power, same thing. Same thing. And there are multiple examples in here, and I'm not going to prolong the time, but there are multiple examples of that, not just throughout this book, but in history. And I think we ain't got no time to go down that line. Y'all, we ain't got no time to go down. But yeah, in terms of the parallels between the generational cycles that happen, it's a matter of exposure. It's a matter of what you experience and what your thought on those things are. If this is something I do because this is what I'm exposed to, this is all I know. And whether you seek out right, wrong, or indifferent and how to fix it or break the curse, as we say, you are subject to be an advocate for it continuing. And luckily for us, in this particular story, we see the character Malik deciding that no, this is gonna stop. We're not gonna continue with this. And yeah, all this stuff my mama did for power, it ain't about that. Because even though he was given a immense amount of power, when he realized he did the same thing his mama did by hurting somebody he loved, that's when he said, no, I got to channel this stuff in. I got to rein this in. So this particular character explored the fact that all of this stuff that was done to me, I don't want it to happen to anybody else. He broke it when it came down to his powers. He wanted to break it when it came down to the love aspect. And even when it came down to the pain, he did not want to inflict any more on anybody else, and he didn't want to hurt anybody like he was hurt. So I think, in my opinion, this book did a good job of showing how these curses can be broken if you're willing to do so. And with that, I yield.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah. All of that. Absolutely right. Options and choices, as Mama T used to say. Yeah.
Options and choices.
Options and choices. Speaking of which, the last and final question for me is power of choice. How uncanny. All right. So throughout these chapters, Malik is forced to make impossible decisions, whether to trust, to love, to fight, or to sacrifice. How does his final choice reflect his growth, and what does it say about destiny versus free will? I'm gonna just preface this by saying I don't fully understand exactly what happened in this last and final chapter as far as the sacrifice is concerned. I think I said that earlier. But I'm gonna move forward in this answer, assuming that he's not dead, as we understand that spell was supposed to cause his death by taking. My understanding was that is that if he did this spell, huh? Yes, Glenna.
He didn't do that spell.
He didn't do that spell. What
He did
happened?
the prison spell.
The
He did
prison.
the same spell that Taryn and Mama Aya did to his mom the first time.
So he sent her back.
He sent her back into a dimensional space, essentially. And she drug, and Marionette tried to grab him, but grabbed Taryn. And in trying to release Taryn, he went in with him. So
Malik, Taryn, and Lorraine are all in this magical prison dimension.
yes, with the piggyback of the possessor as well.
Got it.
So there are 4 entities in this dimensional space.
Was Malik trying to go with her?
No.
Okay.
He was trying whatever Marionette was doing, these vines or something clinged onto Taryn.
Mhm.
He was trying to release those. Didn't work. Or he did get him to release, but they grabbed onto him, and instead of letting him go, Taryn held on.
Got it. Okay, well then that makes this answer pretty easy. Thank you for that clarification, Glenna. How does this final choice reflect his growth, and what does it say about destiny versus free will? Okay, so Malik's final choice then is the clearest proof of how much he's grown. I say that because when I think about Malik in the first book, he was very, unhinged with his emotions. He was scared of his magic back then. Very just all over the place and reactive, understandably so. I mean, he had this foster parent situation and all this other stuff going on. He was grieving and confused about what happened with his mama. Like, it was just a lot. And then he comes to Cayman and he's pulled by everybody's secrets and expectations. And even in this book, there's a new set of expectations with him joining the Divine Elam. And so, shoot, I hadn't even thought about this, but even Mama Aya's plans for him before she died, he has those expectations as well. And power is happening more to him than it is being directed at him. But by the end of this book, all of that shifts because Papa Legba told this man he was going to have to make a choice. Now, we didn't know what that meant at the time that this character popped up in the book. But when everything came to a head and, the Pakors are back, his mama's, begging to be free so she could help him. And Malik doesn't freeze or explode or follow anybody else's lead or directions. He makes a choice. And not an easy one at that. He sacrifices himself. So I think that's powerful for a few reasons because he had every reason to make a different choice. He could have just leaned into Lorraine because he wanted his mama. Or he could have just leaned into kind of like what he did in the courtroom scene where he was like, y'all want somebody to be the villain? Okay, I'll be the villain. And he could have become another Lorraine all over again. He could have, just let everybody suffer and saved himself, but he didn't. He chose to honor his destiny and this weight of this responsibility. Like, he is the scroll of Adon, first of all. He has this great power from Mama Aya, and he's tied to all this different, forms of legacy. But his choices disrupt this narrative that he's got to go this predetermined way and this predetermined path. As Mama said in her question, Lorraine is a reflection of what happens when somebody lets their power and their pain define their path. She tries to control her destiny and tries to control other people and rewrite the reality and build this perfect family. But Malik does the opposite, where he accepts that he can't control everything, but he can control who he becomes within all of that. So, how does this final choice reflect his growth? Pretty much that. But what does it say about destiny and free will? Um, I would say that your destiny gives you the weight, but free will determines how you carry it, if that makes any sense. Malik doesn't just blindly accept his callings from Mama Aya or the ancestors. He redefines what that looks like to carry that. And so his final sacrifice, I guess, is just him saying, like, I'm not just that little boy from Helena, Alabama. I'm not, just out here stealing cars. I'm building a life for myself, for my little brother. I'm moving forward from heartbreak. I'm making friends. I'm finding my way in the world. And I get to decide what kind of man I'm going to be, regardless of whatever my destiny says I'm supposed to be. And with that, I yield. Yes.
The only thing I want to add to this, and this isn't necessarily to do with the answer to this question, just in retrospect of the final kind of scene, there's a part of me that thinks that if Taryn didn't go into the portal with him, that would be the end of the story.
Do tell.
Because I think that because of how much control, because I don't think anybody else is going to have the power to pull him out. I don't think anybody else would be willing to go against the whole tribes of everything like that. And I think the only reason they're going to open that portal is because Empress Bonclair is going to insist to get open to get her son out. Because if he wasn't in there, she would convince him and everybody else that it was better off that they were in the portal together. And I think she'd wheedle and wheedle and wheedle on her son until he was convinced that he was better off to pretend he was dead.
And how convenient, because just moments before, Taryn finally stood up to his mother and said, if you against me and my son, like, I'm gonna stay by my son, which is ultimately what Malik had been waiting for all along. I just thought it interesting that happened just before this. So that's a nice dot you're connecting there, ma'am. Oh yeah.
As much as everything is, and as much as a bee with an itch that Empress Bonclair is, she loves her son. Whether that is a more possessive love than it necessarily is nurturing, she loves her son. And I think that will be the only reason that she will fight for that portal to be opened. Otherwise, I think she would try to convince her son never to open it again if he had been on the other side of it. So I think it is in Malik's best interest that his dad went into the portal with him.
I find it interesting that she's acknowledged as Madam Empress, because that's like Reverend Doctor. Like, why you gotta have so many titles, man? Like, we get it. You're important. Hush. Sorry. Mom, Cam, you had a question.
To Glenna's point, two things. One, if the story ended like that, my skin would crawl.
Oh, I agree.
Same.
I would be so upset. But two, is it possessive love or is it bordering obsession?
You were not wrong.
For who?
For Madam Empress,
Madam Empress
so
was
important, Bon Claire. I don't think it is just love. I feel as though she is obsessed with her son.
Is it so much her son or appearances?
I think two things can be true at once.
That is fair.
I would agree because especially in Southern Belle type communities, appearances are everything. The type of elitism that Madam Empress gives off is very much, I'm the queen bee around here, whether it's the croissant tribe or not, like it's that loud, arrogance. Whereas if we look at characters like Tituba and Mama Aya, they don't really have to say much about their power or their importance. They definitely don't have to name themselves as such to be regarded as that important. It ain't Madam Tituba or Empress Aya. It's it's just very telling. But I also noticed, like, in some communities, specifically communities of color, where the men aren't present in the home, there's a psychological dynamic where the woman not parentifies, but she romanticizes her male child. Not
Yes.
like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's not like she's like molesting him or nothing like that, but the emotional load that would have been given to a male present in the home then gets put on that male child. So those expectations are put on that male child. The emotional maintenance put on that male child. Like, and I see that. I feel like that's a little bit of what happens with Taryn and Madam Empress here.
It's the
It's giving
reverse
boy
Oedipus
mom.
complex.
Yeah.
Yes. It's giving boy mom.
Yeah. Sorry,
I know
Okay.
that. It's a reverse Oedipus complex.
Thank you. Yeah, that's what I was trying to get at.
Yeah.
Mother.
Yeah.
Were you? Hang on. Here. You could unmute, girl, because I was getting some feedback off of your microphone. Unmute thyself.
No worries. Yeah. I just went. I had to go back and reread the last page of that, just to, like we said, because you were questioning how to truly answer that. And yes, he did the spell that he did for his mom, but I'm curious now to truly see what's going to happen, like we said, to get them out of this prison, because now all three of them are imprisoned, where they're in prison but not possessed. Whereas before, when this spell was cast, it was cast because Lorraine was possessed by Marionette. And so now that he put that out there, and she is no longer possessing any of them, but her ultimate in the last pages was, your debt will be paid. So again, I'm curious again at this point as to, because he went into this vortex with his ancestors in it, not necessarily something she created, and she's within this vortex, she's imprisoned with them. So I'm really curious as to how that's going to come about, because if they ever get her out of this thing, will she become imprisoned again with Marionette? Because let's be real, she still has not been paid, so to speak. Do you know what I mean? Even though she's in prison with him, she has not taken over Malik. Or what does that look like for someone who she's supposed to sacrifice Malik to her? What is that supposed to look like? Because right now they're just all imprisoned.
Well, and is it possible for them to get the three of them out whilst leaving Marinette in the let's tally on this?
Yeah, and that's my concern, because how did Tituba get rid of her?
Well, my understanding is that when they are cast out, they go into somebody else, whoever is the conjurer of that casting out spell.
Right.
So
So
somebody
nobody
else
cast her out. Nobody. So Lorraine didn't cast her out. But I
Mhm.
and so then the question becomes, is she going to? Because even though she's in prison, can she not do it? Because remember, he still has his powers down in there. He still has the scroll. You remember in the epilogue, it talked about him having his powers when he was, putting breakfast together and all of that. So he has the scroll with him. That's how Mom identified him as having the scroll. So knowing that, does she have the power to cast Marion out at this point, even though she's in prison? So like
I
I said,
think that's the thing. Even if she doesn't, Malik clearly does because he is the scroll. And he's also got the Kave magic, and he's got this ancestral cloud type magic as well. I think that trifecta alone may be enough to do a final duel with Marinette or whoever else.
mm-hmm. And then what happened with the Bokuas up at the top? They just left the people alone after they got, like I said, this next book, I'm ready for it.
Yeah, very good question. Because I'm like, y'all real late to the party. Like, y'all.
No, I wasn't late to the party. I just wanted to make sure what I was thinking would be in the up because, like I said,
I'm just thinking the Bakur is late to the party because we ain't heard about them since like the concert.
right. And so now that y'all showed up mad because you still ain't got the book from Lorraine, now she done been sucked into the ground. Now what you finna do? So what does that mean? Y'all gonna be cast out forever and a day because y'all can't get the power of the scroll?
So many questions that need answers in this third book.
Yeah, and is D-Lo and the crew still up there fighting y'all because y'all can't get to Lorraine? What the deal is? Because Lorraine gone. She swooped up. She been carried off in the vortex.
Well, I'm just glad that Lolo ain't loco no more, and Marinette is out of here at least temporarily, so that they could have that conversation as a family.
Yeah,
Breakfast.
at breakfast, right?
Because I wonder a lot of times when Lorraine was speaking, after this realization was made, how much of what is being said is actually you versus Marinette using her knowledge of
Manipulating her. Yeah.
fires.
They gave the impression in the epilogue that Marionette's consciousness is inside the mirror on the wall. Because they said something and she got angered, or the eyes something, and the mirror cracked and he healed the mirror.
He was outside the house.
Oh, outside the house, so the glass.
Yeah, she said Malik said he looked over and he could see Marionette's eyes through the window. Like through the blinds in the window. And she was trying to figure out how to get in, but couldn't figure it out.
And I think there was mention of something cracking and him using his magic to feel it. Or to seal it.
I think it was the window.
So, yeah. Window, mirror. Either way, she's not in the room.
She in some glass.
But the mirror did crack on 5:15. If you got your Bibles, it said she and Taryn kissing, graduating college, having me, and then growing up and being watched by Mama Aya. The true life we all should have had. It all flips by as if we were going through several channels and lands back on Marionette. The mirror on the wall starts to crack down the middle. And
Okay.
So it did crack.
So it was the mirror. Okay. But she was outside the house.
Yeah, she was outside because she tried to claw her way in.
Okay. I think she's trying to manifest in whatever way she can to get in the room, and the mirror was just another one. So, but whatever it is, she's on the outside of whatever bubble they're in.
Yep.
I cannot wait for September.
Oh my gosh, BNN can't call me fast enough.
Oh, so are we saying in September that's just gonna be the book?
No, because it's halfway through September before it comes out.
So October, maybe?
October.
Perfect for Halloween.
Agreed.
Which is interesting because we read the first book in October.
Well, there you go. Full circle.
Full circle. Well, ladies, yeah. Until next
So we
book.
know what. So we know what my birthday month book is. Yay! I'm sorry, just a little excited, just a little bit,
A little?
just a little.
Until next time, this is the family plot wherever chapter digs deep. Bye, y'all.
Bye.